This 39 Dunedin News Bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on 39 Dunedin News, funding is secured for local research into an international health issue. Heated debate over whether or not Jetty Street should remain open to traffic. And conservation is the name of the game, with city dwellers being encouraged to engage with nature. Good evening, Dunedin. I'm Holly Buchanan. Local researchers are working to address a widespread international health problem around drug-resistant tuberculosis. They've just secured almost $500,000 in funding to further their study, and that could lead to a better result for thousands of patients around the world.
From their humble research space in Dunedin, local scientists are making life-changing discoveries. Professor Philip Hill and Dr. Tin Lin Ong are working to identify the genetic basis for drug-resistant tuberculosis. They're focusing on Indonesia and Myanmar, where TB is endemic.
So in somewhere like Indonesia, there are around 200 or 300 per 100,000 people per year. So that equates to, somewhere in the 500,000 cases of TB per year.
Dr. Ong's from Myanmar and is passionate about improving the country's TB statistics.
This is not just a number for me now, it's all about the 600 different stories, how we can treat these patients and how I can contribute in a way that I can for my country.
Along with another local professor, these two are trying to better understand drug-resistant strains of TB so they can be more quickly identified and effective treatment administered. The Health Research Council's awarded $450,000 in joint funding to the project, which aims to get better diagnosis equipment where it's really needed.
So you can imagine a tool for TB being only ever utilised in New Zealand on 200 or 300 patients a year, whereas the place where we really need it is where there are millions of patients every year.
It usually takes weeks to diagnose drug-resistant TB, leaving thousands without effective treatment. That's fatal for many, and where demand for this local solution comes in.
So it's quite exciting that we could possibly have that working on the ground in a place like Myanmar or Indonesia, where it's most needed.
We hope to get more funding from other funding bodies so that not only in Myanmar but also in other TB prevalence countries we can save life.
Making a difference offshore while strengthening Otago's reputation for research excellence. Rosie Mannins, 39 Dunedin News.
Staff cuts are possible as Otago Polytechnic considers changes to its architecture, engineering and building school. Staff have been notified about a month-long consultation taking place on the school's future. There's a suggestion being considered to cut 10 full-time equivalent staff, but management say it's early days. The school has 48 full-time equivalent staff at present and student numbers are falling. Just over 500 students are enrolled in the school this year, a drop of almost 10%. Regardless, the Polytechnic expects to boast another annual surplus. But management say they're concerned about the financial viability of the architecture, engineering and building school. A proposal to close parts of Jetty Street to traffic is causing fierce division among locals. Members of the public are weighing in on the idea at a City Council hearing, and the debate's revealing some serious issues.
This part of the historic precinct is in line for a complete overhaul. The City Council proposes to restrict vehicle access to sections of Jetty Street as part of its historic precinct revitalisation. A DCC hearing's given locals the chance to voice their opinions, and it's immediately shown some locals feel the proposal is a terrible idea.
This is not a pedestrian-friendly space. The bridge is monolithic. The buildings surrounding it are very tall, which create shade, a wind funnel. It's cold, it's dark.
Fire service representatives have also spoken at the hearing, detailing concerns about restricted vehicle access in times of emergency. They're concerns that Spencer agrees with.
I think they should scrap it and look at other options and look at how they're using their budget. I think, this has huge cost implications.
While about a dozen locals are against the proposal, 27 are in favour of it. The owner of a Jetty Street building is urging the council to move ahead with the partial street closure. She says it's a good next step in the ongoing revitalisation work that's transformed the historic warehouse precinct.
It was very derelict, and the building that's now got Vogel Street Kitchen, nobody even looked twice at. And now they're all these vivacious, beautiful, painted buildings.
Court says she understands concerns about how dark the area is, but she hopes the current proposal will help solve that problem. And she says unused spaces under the bridge could also help.
I actually think they're a great space for art and bicycles in particular. We get a lot of people who bike in our area.
Council staff have listened to a range of views throughout the hearing, both for and against the Jetty Street proposal. And that information will be considered as the future of this small slice of the city is decided. David DeLorean, 39 Dunedin News.
Witnesses are being sought in relation to the repeated assault of a woman around the University of Otago campus. The woman was assaulted several times by a male associate in the Harbour Terrace and Dundas Street area about 3:30 a.m. on Saturday. A couple of witnesses spoke twice to the victim to ascertain if she was all right, but after they'd left, the woman was again assaulted by her male associate. Another witness helped her and contacted police, who arrested the offender. Dunedin's urban residents are being encouraged to engage with nature through a new conservation campaign. Information panels are springing up around the city as part of the Department of Conservation project, and staff say the benefits are far more than just educational.
Department of Conservation staff are turning their focus to Dunedin's urban environment, installing a number of new informative signs in an effort to connect the city's urban population to nature. The panels are a collaboration between Partnerships Ranger Craig Wilson and the Otago Museum, aimed at increasing the public's awareness of their immediate environment.
We know that people living in cities, they often become a bit disconnected from nature. They don't feel like they're really a part of it, but we're trying to show people that even when they're in the urban centre of Dunedin, there's still nature all around them.
Wilson says increasingly people are becoming disengaged with nature and therefore less interested in protecting it. And he says that's what the Urban Nature Project aims to counteract, helping ensure the public gets behind conservation efforts while also improving their own lives.
The rates of, for example, depression, mental illnesses and I guess physical illnesses from a lack of activity, they do tend to go up. And so if we can get people to feel like they're more part of their environment and feel more connected to what's around them, then it should also be helping people's well-being.
So far, 3 panels have been installed along Portsmouth Drive for the pilot phase of the campaign. Wilson says as time goes on, panels will change seasonally to showcase relevant environmental information throughout the year. In long term, there's plans to grow the project within the city.
We're hoping that this will go well and we'll learn a bit from it, and then the plan is to maybe pick up to 30 sites around the city where we can have these panels that point out different species and different seasonal changes and try to get people more aware of what's happening and thinking more about what's happening in nature around them.
He says after the pilot phase, additional panels will be installed in other high foot traffic areas, including Woodhall Gardens and the town belt. And while for now the campaign is a local one, Wilson hopes other urban centres will take a leaf out of Dunedin's book and do something similar. Ruby McAndrew, 39 Dunedin News.
And still to come on 39 Dunedin News, we meet the woman helping to drive a rejuvenation of a Maori Wardens program, and school students try their hand at some more unusual sport options.
A lifestyler to me is a person maybe wanting to escape the hustle and bustle of a big city, wanting some animals, maybe able to grow their own veggies, have chickens, get their own hens. Lifestyle block can be your supermarket, just a good way of living, and a lot of people enjoy that rather than being in a city. A very sustainable way to live.
Every reason, every season, we're proud. how to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Wake up time and another frantic day ahead for Haraway's Oat Singles. With 3 delicious flavours in each pack, they don't last long with this family. They're so convenient and tasty, and they're ready in seconds. Haraway's Oat Singles are the ideal breakfast or snack on the run for today's busy families. And there's a flavour to suit everyone. Beat the rush and make sure you get your favourite flavour. Haraway's Oat Singles. Try new Kiwi Favourites Caramel Variety Pack.
For 30 years, Southern Clams have harvested New Zealand littleneck clams in the coastal waters of Otago. Hand harvesting to order at the right place and time ensures perfection of every clam you eat. New Zealand littleneck clams, harvested for you by Southern Clams.
Discover New Zealand's most innovative museum, Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. 14 stunning galleries, 3 distinct architectural styles, and 1 million intriguing stories are yours to discover at Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. Open daily next to Dunedin Railway Station and with free admission. Toitu Otago Settlers Museum.
Hedges are something we almost take for granted. A good hedge needs regular maintenance to look its best and to add value and character to your property. For all your hedge care needs, call the team at SGC Services on 0800 783 453.
Big Orange, for all your movies, records, books and games. Pre-loved needs and vinyl records, 45s, DVDs. A South Dunedin family-owned business for over 15 years. Check us out on Facebook, opposite Westpac on the sunny side of King Edward Street.
Tune into Girls Talk on Dunedin Television, where we show you what's hot in Dunedin.
Welcome back. Another local business appears to be going under, placed in liquidation after 8 years. Healthy Soils Limited produces farm fertilisers and plant nutrients from its base in Dukes Road, Mosgiel. Many of its 29 listed shareholders are farmers from around the lower South Island. They passed a special resolution to put the company into liquidation. An initial report by Insolvency Management is expected to outline the company's financial status. Creditors have until the 25th of September to lodge claims. And on that note, let's take a look at today's financials. The NZX 50 is up 5 points and is now at 5,939. The Nikkei is up 97 points. And to the exchange rates, the Kiwi dollar is up against the Australian and down against all the other major currencies we follow. And time now for a Maori Wardens program is being rejuvenated after a period of relative obscurity. It's being driven by Otago Runanga, and Michelle Taiaroa McDonald is here to tell us more about it. Good evening, Michelle.
Sure.
So tell us, what do Maori Wardens do?
They do a range of different activities. We'd have different organisations that would contact us, perhaps need us to assist them with crowd control. Examples maybe, treaty festivals, Polyfest for instance. And then they also support the police in terms of whatever they task us to do, attending different hotspots, perhaps supporting them on the streets at night.
And tell us a bit about the history of the Wardens.
The histories in Dunedin have been around since the end of World War II, mainly put in place and established to patrol wharves and hotels and keep the girls safe in those days, and they've been active since then really in the city, varying levels of numbers.
So why have numbers tapered off a bit?
I guess it's about, we're all time poor nowadays. I know my generation of family didn't think they were ever going to pass away, so succession planning wasn't one of their strong points. But I guess the main reason would be time poor.
So what's prompted this particular push to increase the number of Maori Wardens here?
Well, unfortunately there's a greater need, an ever-increasing need in the city. Our youth, our rakatahi are getting themselves in more and more bother on the street, particularly after dark. That would be my main driver. I've come from a criminal justice background and not impressed and really concerned about the statistics for youth in the city. Mainly fueled through alcohol, too much access to easy drugs, things like that, so they make some really dumb mistakes. And if we can have an intervention there where the police are limited in their options, then that's what we're really driving for.
So how many are likely to be involved in patrols?
Well, currently we've got 8 trained wardens that will be receiving their warrants any day now, so I'd have a minimum of 4 in the van at any one time.
And what authority do those wardens actually have?
Well, they have the statutory powers under the Maori Community Development Act of 1962, which is a very archaic piece of legislation and has been under review for some time. So, they have that legislates them, allows them to be able to patrol and intervene in any situations.
So tell us, how are wardens actually trained?
There's an immense amount of training, and it comes from a variety of different organisations that may do that, from police to child advocacy experts to fire service, medical experts, etc. So it's a very varied and fantastic training package, I have to say, particularly for any young person that's looking at coming over to be a warden. It makes them stand out in the pack, that's for sure.
And so how are police actually involved in the program?
They're heavily involved with us. They originally came to us as runanga and said, look, we're struggling with this, how can you assist? And this is one of the interventions that we came up with. So they support us in a number of ways. They provide us with the van that we use, radios, radio training, police driver training, police modular training. But over and above the actual operational areas, they support me in terms of the governance and the guidance that we need to manage such a thing.
And what's the ultimate aim of a program like this?
The ultimate aim will be to positively impact on the statistics currently in our city, particularly for our Māori youth. That would be my aim, to be able to assist police and give them something else to turn to in terms of an alternative resolution that they're striving for.
Michelle, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having us.
After the break on 39 Dunedin News, school pupils get outside their comfort zone with some more obscure sporting options, and we find out your views on the removal of about 50 trees from the University of Otago campus.
Sir Bob Charles, New Zealand's greatest golfer and still going strong.
I'm sure that Sportsville was a contributing factor to my success, and I'll continue to use it.
Sir Bob Charles Sportsville, a product so good he puts his name to it.
Well, I believe Sportsville helps maintain your quality of life.
Now being used by active men and women globally to support strength and mobility.
It works for me.
Sir Bob Charles Sportsville in the new all-black pack. Call now for the Sportsville special, 0800 502 402.
Moving around the corner, overseas, Best Removals Otago Limited, specialists in household removals and business relocations, as well as packing materials, secure storage. Best Removals can do it all. 0800 266 834.
Big Orange, for all your movies, records, books and games. Pre-loved needs and vinyl records, 45s, DVDs. A South Dunedin family-owned business for over 15 years. Check us out on Facebook, opposite Westpac on the sunny side of King Edward Street.
Pregnant? Need to talk? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pregnancy counselling services are here to help. It's free, it's confidential. Call us now on 0800 773 462.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Oh, a lifestyler can be anybody. We look at a lifestyler as someone who perhaps has been a farmer and is retiring into a smaller block. It could be someone who's working here in Dunedin and has a few acres at home. It could be mum and the kids with the pony on an acre. You know, it's anyone that's got a little bit of land rather than just the quarter-acre section.
Welcome back. Young residents are getting a taste of the more obscure sports played locally. Sport Otago staff are teaching school pupils how to play various games, and that's helping to develop a new generation of young athletes.
It's not your average game of tag. These Sacred Heart school pupils are trying out a modified version of rugby league as part of Sport Otago's promo week. Staff are travelling around about a dozen schools, teaching hundreds of kids how to play the game.
It's good for us to get out into schools and deliver these sessions for the students and as well as the teachers, so it's an opportunity for the teachers to see their classroom involved with a new sport, and they get a wee resource at the end which we give to them that they can carry on with the sport afterwards.
Hamill says the kids get a kick out of learning how to play Kiwi League tag. The movement skills they learn are a huge benefit too, with passing, dodging and other moves useful in many different sports. Promo weeks are run 3 times a year, and Hamill says they're building interest in the city's lesser-known sports, with last year's lessons from ultimate frisbee players particularly successful.
They came down and showed the kids a few tricks, and then we created a wee resource and then gave it to the rest of the kids to carry on with. And I have heard that there was a couple of ultimate frisbee comps going in schools after that session.
Hamill says Kiwi League tag's a bit different from the games normally played in local schools, and she's hoping the lessons will have a lasting impact. With promo week at the halfway point, ideas are already floating around for future sports to try out.
We'll probably be looking for our next one. We'll be running next year. We might look into orienteering, or we could potentially look into speedminton, which is a combination of badminton and tennis.
The promo weeks have gotten local kids playing everything from handball to Aussie rules football, and Hamill believes that'll boost sports participation and diversity. A win for the community and for fans of quirky pursuits. David DeLorean, 39 Dunedin News.
And the University of Otago is removing about 50 trees from its Dunedin campus in a landscaping upgrade. The multi-million-dollar project is upsetting some who are calling for the trees to be left alone. So our Word on the Street team asked members of the public if they're bothered by the removal of the trees.
Right. If they're very old and diseased, yes, but I don't think you should be removing trees just for the sake of removing them. You always need some trees for greenery and for just the sheer joy of trees.
Maybe if they brought in different types of art instead of the trees, but I'd prefer the trees to stay myself, yeah.
Well, it does actually, because it moves the environment for the birds as well. And we've all got to share with our brothers and sisters, meaning the birds, you know. So if we're not old enough to do that, if we're not old enough to leave the habitat there, then I wonder what we're doing here.
Yeah, it does. It just seems really unnecessary. And they shouldn't be spending all that kind of money on constructing and building on the university, and they're rising the student loan prices but not really offsetting it with making fees cheaper or anything like that. It's just building, and the university's big enough. It's unnecessary.
It only bothers me if they're native trees. If they're not native, then I don't know. I feel like the university especially is just going through this process of gentrification where they're repurposing funds that they should be putting into people learning, into how the university looks, which I think is really problematic. But I did really like that around by the Leaf they've planted a whole heap of harakiki, native plants, which they should have done when they built the university.
Yeah, in a way I guess, because trees, they're our oxygen. And I don't know, just tearing them down sort of not a good thing, I guess.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on 39 Dunedin News. Local researchers are helping to alleviate a massive problem with drug-resistant strains of tuberculosis in Indonesia and Myanmar. A range of options are being aired about the proposal to close parts of Jetty Street to traffic, which is angering some residents. And urban dwellers are being encouraged to engage more with nature through a new campaign launched by the Department of Conservation. And now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome, Barry.
Hello, Holly. We start off on the ODT tomorrow with the rather grim news, family tragedy in Waimate. 3 people were killed or died in an early morning fire, so we have more details on that. Queenstown is edging closer to Dunedin, is merging closer to being worth more than Dunedin, despite having a quarter of its population. So that's quite revealing. Milk prices could hit $3 on the back of another horror fall in global dairy prices. And on the sporting front, Otago beat Southland in a ITM Cup rugby warm-up match today. And that's it.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And time now for a look at local weather.
This local weather report proudly brought to you in association with Silberhorn Sportsville.
Starting with today's city view, looking out over the observatory. Around the city today, the central city recorded 12 degrees and 13 degrees at both the Gardens and the Taieri. Looking at the situation, a trough is developing in the Tasman Sea and another front will move over the South Island on Friday. To the forecast for the main towns in the lower South Island for tomorrow: Invercargill 12 degrees, Gore 13, Te Anau 11 and Alexandra 12. All of the above, Queenstown, Oamaru, Wanaka and Twizel all 12 degrees. Here in Dunedin, it's expected to be fine tonight with a low of 5. Tomorrow, a period of rain in the afternoon or evening and the low of 4. And that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Good night.
This 39 Dunedin News Bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.